I'm hoping that we're streaming now. Hopefully, hopefully you'll be able to see us on Facebook and on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page. I think you may have missed my intro because I hadn't turned on one of the settings. So in any case, today's topic, yes, now we're live. Okay, so we're not going to share the centering exercise again, but welcome. And we're talking today about chipping away. Sometimes we're confronted by situations that um, are not resolved simply, right? Like where we have an issue about something that we have to approach from all different angles to be disassembling it, so to speak, um, in order to come to a resolution. So it's interesting because some situations are really straightforward, and other situations are really more of a complex. And I'm not talking necessarily about situations. I'm talking about responses. Good morning, Rosalind. So glad you could make it. I had a little bit of a user error in the beginning, which is why it showed up late on Facebook without the without our introduction centering exercise. But we're good to go now, and I'm so glad you're here. And welcome to everybody else who's joining us. We're talking about chipping away. So there's, I've got something going on in my in my my life circumstances right now that has just gotten under my craw. And I've been doing all kinds of work around it. And it's interesting to notice that I'm making progress in transforming it and transforming me in the process, healing whatever their wounds are that are related to this thing. But there's still that underlying, where the clenching that you have about something that is getting to you. And so navigating it's been really, really interesting. And I come from the place of, everything is happening for me. Life is happening for me rather than through me. I'm sorry. Life is happening for me and through me rather than to me. And so when things happen that don't happen the way that I would like them to happen, um, I just like everybody else, I get to contend with that and what it stirs up in me. And this dynamic brings up all kinds of emotions for me, and it's issues on a lot of different levels. And I do believe that the circumstances that challenge us in our lives are showing up because it's an opportunity for us to use them to heal. The things that we get reactive about are things that are calling for healing, right? And so, we all get gotten every now and then. And this has been like a really activating one for me. And what I realize, I'm saying it's one situation, but I think what it is a situation that kind of brings together a whole bunch of different triggers all in one, a whole bunch of different wounds all together that, you know, unfortunately, or it's not fortunate or unfortunate, but, it's kind of like teasing apart a knotted ball of yarn. And I don't know if you've had that experience where you just keep chipping away at something that is still that you still get activated about. And it's interesting. I see that I've made progress around it, that I don't have the same level of reactivity, but the reactivity, it really, really triggered me in a very, very deep way. And so why I'm talking about this is because we all get triggered. And I really, truly do believe that those triggers are opportunities for us to see ourselves, to see the places where we still have growth to do. And yet, as you're working through something, even the working through process can be triggering, right? It's like, well, how come this is still here? And that's a really important, useful question, actually, is like, well, what else is going on with this? And it's interesting in working with living systems, getting a deeper understanding of living systems. I've encountered the quote, living systems are complex versus complicated. So complicated is something that is mechanistic, something that can be kind of reduced to a mechanism, something like, a cell phone. Creating a cell phone is complicated, but an ecosystem is complex. And the thing that distinguishes complexity from complication is complication can be systematized. It can be templated. It can be made more efficient and replicated. It's predictable, essentially. It may be complicated, but it's predictable. Whereas complexity is a whole different thing, and it is not predictable. And so I want to introduce the possibility, my hypothesis anyway, is that personal growth work and transformation is complex rather than complicated. We can't just figure it out and do the thing, because it's not predictable as to which thing is going to be the thing that catapults us to the next level of awareness. So with this transformational work that I'm doing around this complex issue for me, there are moments, and I know that we all experience this in our own growth and transformation, there are moments when it just feels like I'm not getting anywhere. Like I haven't made any progress at all. And then there are other moments where I recognize, okay, so this is shifted. It may be subtle. It may be a small increment, but there's a shift that I can actually identify. And then at some point, you could just be putting in that one last bit of effort, and bam, the transformation happens, and the whole thing disappears. Sometimes you can go right to that acupuncture point, so to speak, and release the whole matrix of whatever the issues are. And other times it takes, kind of dancing around the periphery, dancing around the outside, and until we can find an inroad. And it feels like chipping away. And so we want to be recognizing and honoring the persistence that it takes to be moving through these complex issues. It can look like we've regressed sometimes, but or that we're having to deal with the same thing over and over and over again. But we're at a different frequency, a different perspective each time we're approaching this. And one thing that I encourage in my clients is to recognize the change that they've experienced, and to practice that for myself as well, to see, okay, so there's less reactivity, and what we want to do is acknowledge even the smallest change, even the smallest bit of progress, because that is a confirmation and affirmation that indeed we are making a difference. So I'm wondering for you if you've experienced issues that you've just worked on and worked on and worked on and worked on, and they're still persisting in some capacity. Like, what does that look like? What does it look like to find the tenacity and the commitment to keep working on something that feels sometimes immovable? I think it's actually a really good question, because when we look at not just personal change or personal issues, but when we look at the issues in the world that we want, where we want to affect change, it can feel sometimes hopeless or futile. And it's really interesting. I've shared this book with you from this wonderful woman named Maud Barlow, who has been a powerful activist, first for women's rights, then water rights, and the human right to water and nature's rights. So her most recent book, she's written like 20 books. Her most recent book is called Still Hopeful. And she talks about how every step is progress. And it's not that what we need to do is not be attached to the outcome, to be passionate about the purpose and not be attached to the outcome, because we are not able to necessarily assess the outcome. It may show up differently. It may show up in different timing. It essentially that we get to cultivate a faith that other people's contributions are really making a difference. So Rosalind says, using the trigger to become aware and then moving toward non-reactivity. Exactly. That's exactly what we're talking about. So when we get triggered, rather than getting sucked into that whole spiral of reactivity, what we get to do is notice what that is, what's going on. What is it that's triggered? Is it a sense of feeling unsafe? Is it a sense of injustice? And in my situation, there's a sense of feeling unsafe, a sense of injustice, a sense of not being able to control my own destiny, of being at the whim of somebody else that is very capricious, to not be steering my own ship, kind of thing, which isn't true. It's just that there's certain aspects of steering one's own ship that you still have to account for the tides, right? You still have to account for the other vessels that you might be encountering. So but it triggered a whole lot of stuff for me, that I had not realized was still so wounded. You know, like I I I believe that whatever it is that occurs in our lives, we get to dance with it in one way or another. And um, the reaction of feeling powerless at the effect of, you know, dominated and controlled, those, and we get to be experiencing that on a grander scale nationally at this point, with a lot of the things that are happening right now, you know, where we get to maybe be activated into the story of powerlessness. When those stories are healed, then we get to take positive action, you know, which is choosing a response rather than allowing ourselves to fall into victimhood, right? So to move out of, I mean, really, I guess on some level, what was going on for me was feeling victimized. And to move out of that place, to move into a place of empowered choice, is a whole different thing. And it's interesting because I've had clients talk about, well, it's not fair. Life should be this way. Life should be that way. And the truth is, it is how it is. And other people are how they are. And the circumstances are what they are. And then we get to be how we be in the face of it. You know, we can bemoan our fate and and be disempowered, or we can find a way to rise into our strengths and our choice. And even if the choices are choices that you would prefer not to have to make, you know, or even if the choices are between bad and worse, you know, to actually stand up and actively make a choice is an empowering act. And you know, when you're between a rock and a hard place, choosing one of them is at least going to move you into out of victimhood and into ownership of your experience. And I think that that's the ultimate intention, is to get to a place of self-mastery where we can be engaging as active partners with life, collaborators in life, rather than victims of life. And so the thing that's interesting, so Rosalind says, how to discern unattaching to an outcome but not losing desire. Yeah, that's a really good one. That's a really good one. And that's really what Maud Barlow is saying, is be passionate about the intention, but realizing that the outcome doesn't have to look a certain way by a certain time. You know, that there is an element of faith that we get to cultivate about making a difference, right? To cultivate a sense, for instance, in the face of saving the world, so to speak, we get to, as Maud Barlow says, have faith that it's not just our actions, that it's not just us alone, that the responsibility for saving the world, it's not just ours alone, and that the action that we're taking is being complemented by actions taken by others as well. And in personal growth, in this kind of situation, you know, where we get triggered, what I see, again, one of my working hypotheses is that in our intentions to heal these wounds in ourselves, we're also healing them in the collective. You know, that as we raise our own vibration, as we raise our own frequency, as we heal our own wounds, we are part of the collective. And it very well may be that one of the, and I don't know, but we live in a complex reality. So it may be that in my challenges in healing this are not due entirely to my own triggers, but this is in conjunction with others. And so perhaps part of the complexity and part of the work that I'm doing is actually working on their healing as well. You know, maybe I don't get to be fully healed until they are around this issue, or around whatever issues. Um, good morning, Gia. So good to have you here this morning. So Gia says, hey, Mira, been listening to you, but couldn't reply, is busy with work again. Great topic. So glad to have you listening, Gia. And that's awesome that you're busy with work and listening. I think it's awesome. I'm flattered. But the thing is that we navigate challenging waters, and the things that come up to challenge us, and I do operate, as I said, with this hypothesis that these things are arising because they're ready, and we're ready to heal them. And it can take a persistent effort. And so I'm here to encourage you not to give up. I'm here to encourage you to keep chipping away, to be persistent about it, and to be checking in to notice the even subtle changes, to presence yourself to any progress that you make, however small it may seem. Because if we're talking about quantum change, remember that in a quantum state, you're putting in all this energy. It looks like everything's the same, and then boom, it pops up to the next level, seemingly in an unexpected way. And so I think that that's how cultural transformation works. I think that's how personal transformation works. And as frustrating as it might feel because you want it to be healed already, allowing ourselves to dive into the complexity of something, to be approaching it from all the different angles, to be deepening our awareness, to be more fully embodying the transformational change that's happening on so many levels. Sometimes it just doesn't go according to the schedule that we would like it to go according to. Sometimes it takes more effort, and ultimately the healing of those things, particularly the ones that give us the most resistance or challenge, they pay back dividends, right? They are truly life altering to be able to get down to these deep underlying layers and heal them. So sometimes we can see instantaneous change, and other times it feels like it's a slog. But be heartened, be heartened that the intention and the persistence will be rewarded. So with that, that's it for this morning. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's so good to be here with you, and I so appreciate your engagement. I am Mira Rubin, and this is the Core Connection. And I go live here each weekday morning on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel. Hello, Dido, Dido, Dido. Good morning. Dido says this is so helpful. Oh, I hope so, Dido. Thank you for that feedback. I appreciate it. Anyway, I go live each weekday morning here on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel at 9 a.m. Eastern. And I invite you to check out the other awesome programming on Enlightened World Network and EWN One with the Earth, Enlightened World Living. And again, so much love to you, so much appreciation. And until next time, I hope to see you again here really, really soon.